My name is Eric Sokolowski, and I am doing Goodfellas. So, um, so a big part of just to summarize real quickly, Goodfellas is about a man named Henry Hill who, it's a true story, played by Ray Liotta, who gets into the mob from a very young age and kind of works his way up through the mob, and then eventually goes to jail and at the end and is put in witness protection, and um, in the end he actually helps get a lot of other mob members arrested because he ends up helping out the FBI. But it's a great movie, and there are a lot of great themes reflective of like American culture and ethnicity and male gender and like the mob mentality and how it's like all males, and how like the men are in the mob, and then they all are supposed to get married and have their wives, and it's there's just so many great themes in this movie that I felt like would be perfect to talk about for this um, class. So yeah, I just wanted to get into it. um, so yeah, ethnicity, I mean, it follows uh, you know it really is set around these New York Italian um, mob members in the uh, you know 70s and 80s, um, and yeah, it's just really reflective of um, that time and that you know group of people, and how they were immigrants, and this is how these people had to survive, and so the mob became a thing, and it's very specific to Italian Americans, and you have to be full Italian in order to be accepted into the mob. And so it's very um, intense in that way, and very specific, and um, this movie really speaks on that a lot, and um, yeah, so it's really reflective of um, how, and the Italian Americans love their food, and as I'm about to talk about, but and that comes from Italy, like eating meals together, and meals are just a big part of um, everything, and like the struggles that like Italian immigrants went through. Like there was always like the meals and like the Sunday gravy and like the community aspect. So um, and I just want to talk about the food real quick because this movie uses so many great shots, and there are so many great scenes of just food, and specifically the prison sauce scene. I think is one of the most iconic food scenes in all of cinema. Um, there's so basically, just for people who haven't seen it, I'll give a little synopsis. Henry Hill is in prison. He's caught, and so are many of his other mob friends, and but they kind of get to cheat the system because they're in the mob. They're so highly respected, and they have all these ties with like officers and whatever, and so they all get to live together in one big apartment in the prison, and so they're treated pretty well, and they get all of these different wines imported to them, cheeses, and like all these meats, and sauces that they can produce to make sauces, and they just get all these special benefits that most people in prison, I mean, and no people in prison get. Um, so it's very funny, and it's cool to see that they can still have a whole family meal, um, within the walls of prison. And so what you see here is a man, Paulie, he's slicing. There's a famous quote in this movie that he says, he used to slice the garlic so thin with a razor that it would liquefy in the pan with a little oil. And so that's what you see right there is Paulie's hand slicing the garlic with the razor. And it's funny because it's actually, I work as a chef, and most people probably know this, that garlic does not liquefy in a pan. So I think Martin Scorsese took some liberties with that one, but creative liberties. So I always thought that was really funny. But it's just such a cool, um, I don't know, it's just such a cool thought, that Polly has a special method with, the razor to get the garlic like perfectly, liquefied, which can't happen. But it's just great. And then as you see over here, um, there's the Sunday gravy, and they have all these different meats in the gravy is what they call the tomato sauce, to flavor it. And food is just very, very important in the Italian American community, and it's a binder of um, it brings everyone together, and then a lot of um, interactions just happen over food, and it's just a huge part of like the Italian American culture, and same with real Italy too, real Italians. But so yeah, again, like community, it just like I said, food. I don't know if anyone's seen the Jersey Shore, but whenever there's a character Vinny, and he always, his mom is heavily featured, and whenever they're at Vinny's house, his mom is, they're Italian, and his mom is always preparing these insanely huge meals with like all different kinds of pastas and meats, and all like salads, like all these different things, breads, cheeses that you could possibly want, because creating a feast, even though like you're not going to eat it all, is the Italian way. And so it's really represented in this movie, and it's captured brilliantly, and Martin Scorsese does a great job, and he's actually Italian American too. So this movie's probably close to home for him. But yeah, I just felt like, there's so many elements in this movie where, um, that are so relevant to the class, especially with gender too, how, like the mob is for the men, and that's how, and they provide for, their wives and their mothers, and, it's just, that's just the way their system works, and it's like this like precise system. So yeah, I thought this was a really interesting movie, and a really just perfect one for this class because it touches on, yeah, all those elements. And so yeah, and these are my sources. There's this great interview with Martin Scorsese who talks about um, how he kind of brings his own um, life to his movies. And then obviously Goodfellas the movie. And if you haven't seen it, I think this is one of the best movies of all time, done by one of the best directors ever, and you got to check it out. So, yeah, thank you for listening. That's it.